I was only 18 when I stepped into that gay sauna in downtown Chicago for the first time. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my wallet at the front desk. The humid air hit me like a wall thick with steam and the low hum of voices, and it felt like every eye in the place was on me, even though most guys were just minding their own business wrapped in towels or lounging on benches. Growing up in the suburbs outside the city, my life had been all about keeping up appearances. My father, Richard Thompson, was a big name in real estate, a man who spoke at church events about family values and traditional marriage, and he made sure everyone in our house knew exactly where he stood on anything that did not fit his picture of normal. My mother smiled through it all. My older brother followed his lead, and I kept my head down, studying hard, playing sports, and pretending the feelings I had for other guys were just a phase that prayer and time would fix. College in the city gave me space to breathe for the first time. Late nights in my dorm, scrolling through forums and reading stories from guys who had taken the leap, made the curiosity louder than the fear. One Friday, after a long week of classes and another silent family dinner where my dad talked about some politician pushing anti-gay bills, I typed in the address of a place I had bookmarked weeks earlier. The drive felt endless, every red light giving me time to turn back, but I kept going. When I finally walked through the doors, paid the fee, and changed in the locker room, my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. I told myself I was just looking, I did not have to do anything, but the second I stepped into the lounge area and saw him, everything shifted. He was sitting on a bench across the room, maybe 22 or 23, with dark hair that fell slightly over his forehead and eyes that looked kind instead of hungry. Our gazes locked, and he gave a small smile, not aggressive, just inviting. I looked away, at first my face burning, but something pulled me back. After a few minutes, he walked over and introduced himself as Jordan. We started talking, and to my surprise the words came easy. He asked if it was my first time, and I admitted it was, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded like he understood, said he remembered his own first visit and how scared he had been. We talked for what felt like hours about college, about feeling different, about the weight of expectations from family and faith. He listened without judging, and when the place started to close, he asked for my number. As I drove home that night, the city lights blurring past my windshield, I felt something I had never felt before, a spark of hope that maybe I was not broken after all. The next morning my phone buzzed with a text from him asking if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, no pressure. I stared at the screen for 20 minutes before replying yes. That single word felt like jumping off a cliff. Over the next few days we texted constantly, small things at first, then deeper stuff. He told me about growing up in the city, dealing with his own conservative family, and how he had come out at 19 after years of hiding. I shared pieces of my life, the church youth group, the way my dad would quote scripture at the dinner table, the fear that if anyone found out it would destroy everything. Jordan never pushed, he just listened and made me laugh with stories about awkward dates and bad first kisses. By the end of the week we had plans to meet at a quiet park near campus. When I saw him waiting on a bench in jeans and a simple hoodie, the nerves came rushing back, but so did that same pull from the sauna. We walked and talked for hours, the conversation flowing like we had known each other for years. He asked about my dreams, what I wanted to study, what kind of life I imagined, and for the first time I let myself say the words out loud without shame. As the sun started to set, he reached over and took my hand gently, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. It was the simplest touch, but it sent electricity through me. That night, when I got back to my dorm, I lay in bed replaying every moment and wondering how something that felt so right could be so dangerous. My family would never understand. My father would see it as a betrayal of everything he stood for. But in that moment, with Jordan still fresh in my mind, I started to wonder if living a lie was the real betrayal. The weeks that followed blurred into a secret world I never knew I could have. Jordan and I met whenever we could, stolen hours in parks, quiet coffee shops, or long drives along the lakefront. He was patient and gentle, never rushing me, never making me feel like I had to prove anything. Our first real kiss happened on a bench overlooking the water, the city lights reflecting on Lake Michigan. It was soft and hesitant at first, then deeper, like something inside me finally clicked into place. I pulled back afterward, breathing hard, and he just smiled and said we could take all the time I needed. That kindness undid me more than anything else. At home things stayed the same on the surface. Sunday dinners with my parents and brother where my dad would talk about his latest deal or some new bill he was supporting that targeted what he called moral decay. I would nod and smile while my stomach twisted, knowing that if he knew the truth about where I had been and who I was seeing, he would lose it. My mother sensed something was different. She kept asking if I was seeing anyone special, and I would mumble about classes and dodge the question. The guilt ate at me, but every time I saw Jordan the guilt faded, replaced by a warmth I had never felt. He made me feel seen, not as the perfect son or the quiet student, but as me, the guy who loved books and quiet mornings and dreamed of traveling someday. One evening we sat in his small apartment after grabbing takeout, talking about our families. I told him about my dad's expectations, the way he pushed me toward business school, the comments he made about guys who were too soft or too different. Jordan listened quietly, then shared his own story. His father had been a contractor who lost everything in a bad deal years ago, ruined by a bigger player in the industry. The bankruptcy destroyed the family. His dad never recovered and passed away when Jordan was a teenager. He said it left scars that still ached, and that he had spent years angry at the system, at the men who played dirty to get ahead. I felt for him, reached over and squeezed his hand. In that moment I thought we were just two guys trying to figure out love in a world that did not always make it easy. Our relationship grew stronger with every meeting. We laughed over silly things, argued about movies, and held each other when the weight of secrecy got too heavy. Jordan was my safe place, the one person who did not expect me to be anyone but myself. I started to imagine a future where I could be out, where I did not have to hide. The thought terrified me, but it also excited me. One night, after a particularly good day together, I told him I was falling for him. He pulled me close and whispered that he felt the same. For the first time, the word love did not feel impossible. Yet cracks were starting to show if I had paid closer attention. Jordan sometimes got quiet when I mentioned my father or his business. He would change the subject quickly or distract me with a kiss. I brushed it off, thinking he was just protective or maybe dealing with his own family pain. The secrecy added tension, but it also made every moment feel more intense, more precious. I was so caught up in the newness of it all, the way he looked at me, the way his laugh made everything brighter, that I ignored the small warnings. Back at home, my brother started asking questions about where I disappeared to on weekends, and my mother watched me with worried eyes. I lied smoothly, but the lies were piling up, and I knew they could not last forever. By the third month, Jordan had become the center of my world. We had our routines, late-night phone calls, texts throughout the day, and weekend meetups that felt like stolen slices of heaven. I was happier than I had ever been, even with the constant fear of being discovered. He encouraged me to explore my interests, introduced me to new music and books, and listened when I talked about the internal battle between my faith and my feelings. He never pushed me to come out, but he made me believe it was possible someday. One weekend we drove out to a small town along the lake and spent the day walking trails, holding hands when no one was around. We talked about the future, what it might look like if we could be open. I admitted how scared I was of losing my family, my dad cutting me off emotionally and financially. Jordan was quiet for a long time, then said he understood more than I knew. He told me more about his father's bankruptcy, how a powerful developer had used shady tactics to force his dad out of a big project, leading to the collapse of the business and eventually his dad's health. The name of the developer sounded familiar, but I did not connect the dots then. I just held him and said I was sorry he had gone through that. Back in the city, things started to heat up in other ways. A guy from one of my classes made a comment about seeing me with someone downtown, and I panicked, thinking he had spotted us. Nothing came of it, but it was a reminder of how fragile our secret was. Jordan was there for me through it all, calm and steady. We spent more nights at his place, talking until dawn, sometimes just lying together, fully clothed, listening to the city outside. The intimacy was emotional more than anything, and it healed parts of me I did not know were broken. Yet the doubts crept in slowly. Jordan would get calls he stepped away to take, or mention meetings with old friends without details. When I asked about his family, he gave short answers. I told myself it was nothing, that everyone had baggage. My own family was pressing harder, my dad talking about me joining the family business after graduation, my mother hinting at setting me up with daughters of church friends. The pressure made me cling to Jordan even more. He became my escape, my truth in a world of lies. One evening we had our first real argument. I was stressed about a family dinner where my dad had gone on about how the country was losing its moral compass because of people like me, though he did not know it. I snapped at Jordan when he suggested I start thinking about coming out on my own terms. He got defensive, said he knew how hard it was, but that living in fear was no way to live. We made up quickly, but the conversation left a mark. It made me realize how different our worlds were. He was out and proud in his circle, while I was still deep in the closet. The gap felt wider than ever, but the love was stronger too. I could not imagine my life without him. The cracks turned into fissures the night my brother mentioned a name during dinner. He was talking about some old business rivalry and said the name Hayes the same last name as Jordan. My stomach dropped, but I played it cool. Later I asked Jordan about it casually. He froze for a second, then said it was a common name and changed the subject. That night I could not sleep, the pieces starting to click in uncomfortable ways. His anger at powerful developers, the way he avoided talking about his past, the timing of when we met. A few days later I confronted him in his apartment. He sat me down and told me the truth, that his father had been destroyed by my dad in a ruthless business deal years ago. The bankruptcy was not just bad luck, it was calculated. Jordan admitted he had gone to the sauna that night hoping to meet me, that he had planned to get close to me to gather information or even expose me as a way to hurt my father, get some kind of revenge. My world spun. The man I loved had started our relationship as a lie. The betrayal hit like a truck. I yelled, I cried, I asked how he could do that to me. Jordan broke down too, said that what started as revenge had turned real, that he had fallen in love with me for real, and that he had been trying to find a way out of the mess he created. He begged me to believe him, that the feelings were genuine now. I left his apartment that night shattered, not knowing what to believe. The next week was hell. I avoided Jordan, ignored his calls and texts. At home my dad announced he was running for local office on a platform that included strong stances against what he called radical agendas. The irony burned. Then the worst happened. A blurry photo of Jordan and me together surfaced on a local gossip site. Someone had tipped them off. My dad saw it first. The confrontation was brutal. He raged, called me every name in the book, threatened to cut me off completely. My mother cried, my brother looked disappointed. They demanded I end it, say it was a mistake, go to counseling. In that moment I had to choose. I chose Jordan. Or at least I tried to. After the family explosion I went to his apartment and we talked for hours. He admitted the full plan, how he had intended to use our relationship to leak information, damage my dad's reputation, but that every moment with me had changed him. He had called off the revenge weeks earlier, but the photo had been sent by a friend who did not know he had backed out. The damage was done. My dad was in damage control mode, the campaign was in jeopardy, and the family was torn apart. Jordan and I tried to make it work in the aftermath. We faced the stares on campus, the whispers, the occasional insult from strangers who recognized the story. My mother reached out once in secret saying she loved me, but that my father was too proud to bend. My brother stopped talking to me altogether. The isolation was crushing, but Jordan was there holding me through the nights when the guilt and fear overwhelmed me. He sacrificed his own grudges, fully letting go of the past for the sake of our future. Yet the cost was high. I lost the financial support from my family, had to take extra jobs to stay in school. The internal conflict raged on, to the voice in my head that said I had chosen sin over family, the fear that God would punish me. Jordan helped me work through it, showing me that love in all its forms could be part of faith, not against it. We grew closer through the fire, but the scars remained. One night we sat on the roof of his building looking at the city lights. He told me he would understand if I walked away, that he knew he did not deserve my forgiveness. I looked at him and realized that despite the betrayal, the pain, and the loss, I still loved him. The choice was not easy, but it was mine. Months passed and the storm did not fully die down, but we found a new normal. My dad eventually softened just enough to allow limited contact through my mother, though the relationship was strained and formal. The campaign suffered, but he survived it. Jordan and I moved in together after I graduated, taking it one day at a time. The experience changed us both, made us stronger, more honest about what we wanted from life. I started volunteering with LGBTQ youth groups, helping others who felt trapped like I had. Jordan worked through his own anger and found peace in building something real instead of tearing things down. Looking back, the path was full of wrong turns and painful choices. I hurt my family by living my truth, they hurt me by refusing to accept it. Jordan betrayed me at the start, but redeemed himself through honesty and sacrifice. Every decision carried a price, the lost relationships, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt. Yet in the end, I found a love that felt authentic and a version of myself I could live with. The question that still keeps me up some nights is this: was it right to choose my own happiness and love over keeping the peace in my family, even if it meant tearing everything apart, or should I have stayed silent and sacrificed my truth to protect the people who raised me? What would you have done?